What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Colby Covington training for Leon Edwards. Although Leon Edwards may not be on board, the UFC has apparently given two-time title challenger Colby Covington the green light to begin training for his upcoming bout with Leon Edwards. While there's been no word yet from the champion, who recently stated that he plans to wait and see how things play out in UFC 287's welterweight clash between Gilbert Burns and Jorge Masvidal, Covington's coach, Daniel Valverde, has revealed that Chaos is already training for Rocky. He spoke in an interview about the controversial welterweight's preparations for the fight, saying, "Dana White already said yes. He called Colby and he said yes. I don't think Dana or the UFC are gonna lie like that. I think the fight is gonna happen. We are already training for Leon." This week also saw Hall of Famer Michael Bisping accidentally drop a pretty big bombshell on his YouTube channel. According to the count, the UFC is heading back to London late in July for a card that has yet to be officially announced by the promotion. So far, there's been plenty of speculation in regards to who may headline the event. With the champion adamant that Chaos does not deserve another crack at the title, many are wondering if the UFC will try to incentivize him by booking the fight in the United Kingdom. With that said, there's been no word as to whether or not the July card leaked by Bisping will be a pay-per-view event or a fight night card. Of course, at the same time, Jorge Masvidal has gone on record as saying that he has some insider information that will ensure him a crack at his longtime rival should he emerge victorious from his UFC 287 clash with Gilbert Burns. With all of that in mind, do you believe that Covington's coach is telling the truth? Or do you think the UFC is still working behind the scenes to finalize things for an Edwards vs. Covington pay-per-view card? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Israel Adesanya and Paulo Costa trade barbs on Twitter. There's certainly no love lost between former middleweight champion Israel Adesanya and Paulo Costa. After a heated build-up to a massive pay-per-view event, the two met in the octagon back in 2020 for a highly anticipated fight that saw Adesanya pick up a big second-round TKO win. After the bout, Adesanya notoriously taunted Costa, as well as his coach, with a series of sexual gestures and remarks. Now, ahead of Adesanya's highly anticipated UFC 287 rematch with Alex Pereira, Costa has once again gone on the offensive, posting a meme on his Twitter account alleging that Adesanya had withdrawn from his upcoming rematch with Poatan. The last stylebender was quick to respond, referencing his infamous celebration after defeating Costa at UFC 253. Costa then replied again, comparing the former champ to a skeletal form of Slim Shady. With Costa recently re-signing with the UFC, he could be looking to set up a rematch with Adesanya down the line. In addition to the former champion taking on Pereira at UFC 287, the UFC is reportedly working to finalize a showdown between Costa and undefeated contender Khamzat Chimaev. Should the fight get finalized and Costa manages to secure the win, he could find himself right back in title contention. Do you think these two rivals will square off again? Conor McGregor wants Eddie Hearn to book MMA fight with Carl Froch. While Conor McGregor has previously crossed over to the sport of boxing, England's own Carl Froch seems to be interested in doing the opposite by going from boxing into MMA. Not only that, the 45-year-old Froch wants to cross into MMA with the goal of fighting the one and only Conor McGregor. During a recent segment on his Froch on Fighting YouTube channel, he spoke about his chances against younger competitors like Jake Paul and Conor McGregor. The former IBF and WBA super middleweight champion surmised that neither man is truly a boxer, and despite his age, he's much larger than McGregor.
Jake Paul's like one arm. I need one arm for Jake Paul. Conor McGregor might give me a few small problems, but he's too small.
Who would you train harder for?
I wouldn't train much for either of them.
Who would you train harder for?
Train harder for? Depends. If I'm fighting Conor McGregor, in the cage,
I'm trying to work out who's better.
I'd train harder because I'd fight Conor McGregor in the cage.
Right.
I could be getting myself in trouble here or into a position I can't wiggle out of, but I think I'd take him on in the cage. Is that ridiculous? Is that?
McGregor was quick to respond, tagging Eddie Hearn and telling him to get the deal signed for Froch to compete in MMA. This, of course, isn't the first time McGregor and Froch have been at odds. McGregor infamously claimed that he would twist Froch's head off, which sparked up a feud between the pair that had seemingly died down, at least for a while. Do you think Froch is all talk, or will he actually entertain the idea of competing in MMA against McGregor, given the size advantage he has? Before we continue, make sure you give that like button some love and be sure to subscribe to the MMA Zone for all of the latest news, UFC roster update, and booking roundup. This week saw the UFC part ways with Guido Canetti, who dropped a first-round submission loss to Mario Bautista at UFC Fight Night Yan vs. Dvalishvili earlier this month. The loss snapped a 2-fight win streak for Canetti and brought his UFC record to 4-6. So far, there's been no word on what the future may hold for Canetti. However, at 43 years old, the release could force him to decide whether it's time to hang up the gloves. This week also saw a fight between Gabe Green and Brian Battle confirmed for the UFC Fight Night card on May 13th, which will be headlined by Anthony Lionheart-Smith and Johnny Walker. Battle will be stepping in on short notice after Green's original opponent was forced out of the fight. This week saw some pretty major news break in the featherweight division as well. According to reports, Josh Emmett and Ilia Topuria will headline an upcoming card on June 17th. The fight will mark the first fight for Emmett in the wake of his UFC 284 loss to Yair Rodriguez. On the flip side, Topuria picked up a big win over Bryce Mitchell late last year to keep his unbeaten streak alive. With the two featherweights set to do battle this summer, the rest of the division will surely be keeping a close eye on how things play out. Drop your predictions for how you see these two fights playing out in the comments section down below. UFC reportedly heading back to Canada for June pay-per-view card. According to reports, the UFC is heading back to Canada for a pay-per-view card this coming June. Ariel Helwani broke the news this week on Twitter, revealing that the current plan is for the card to take place in Calgary. As Helwani pointed out in his tweet, the event will be the first UFC card held in Canada since before the COVID-19 pandemic forced the promotion to hold events at the UFC Apex. The UFC, of course, has a mixed track record when it comes to events in Calgary. Back at UFC 149, Uriah Faber and Renan Barão competed in the main event of a card that continues to be referred to as one of the worst in UFC history. The event, which left Dana White admittedly embarrassed after the fact, saw 9 fighters drop out of fights before the event even took place. Fortunately, the UFC redeemed itself with the fight of the decade contender between Dustin Poirier and Eddie Alvarez in 2018. Despite that, the promotion has yet to hold another pay-per-view event in Calgary. If the event comes to fruition, who do you think will headline the pay-per-view card? Henry Cejudo gives shocking answer to biggest threat at 135 pounds. With Triple C Henry Cejudo set to return to the octagon at UFC 288 to contest for the bantamweight title, many people are wondering what the future may hold for the former two-division champ. Should he emerge victorious, there's no shortage of exciting contenders for him to potentially square off against. If he loses, he could be forced to compete with an incredibly dangerous group of contenders in order to earn another crack at the title. Ahead of his upcoming fight, Cejudo weighed in with who he believes is the most dangerous man in the bantamweight division, shocking many with his answer.
Omar is the most dangerous guy, man. I'm going to say it right now. At 135 pounds, out of all these cats that I see, Omar Nurmagomedov is the toughest challenge for any of those dudes, including myself. He could wrestle, he could strike, he could box. He's well-rounded. He's seen his brother and his cousin win world titles, and he wants to be next.
Nurmagomedov was quick to repost the footage, thanking Cejudo for the praise while wishing him good luck in his upcoming fight. Currently, Umar Nurmagomedov is sitting in 11th place in a stacked bantamweight division, meaning that if he's able to pick up a couple of wins over top 10 opponents, he could find himself in title contention. While he doesn't have a fight booked yet, Umar is looking to secure a fight with Corey Sandhagen after his dominant win over Chito Vera. Do you think Nurmagomedov will be able to capture UFC gold? And now for our breaking news story of the day. We have Sean O'Malley revealing bad news. He confirmed that he will not be the backup fighter for Aljamain Sterling and Henry Cejudo's match at UFC 288. Here's what he had to say on a recent podcast.
That brings me up to this too. I was really planning on being backup for Henry Aljo. Now we're at the point where it is so, dude, going doing a camp 5-5s, planning on a fight is hard enough to do, knowing you have a fight. But knowing you're probably not going to fight, I can't train the same way. I don't feel like I'm in a position to where I'm like, well, it's my only opportunity to be a backup. I'm like, you know, now, and I was trying, but it's just like now I'm at the point where I'm like, fuck that. One of those dorks pulls out, reschedule it. I need a real 8 weeks where I know I'm fighting, and it's too hard to go be that disciplined. You can't be that disciplined all the time. There's a certain level of discipline you can be in camp. That's why you feel like a fucking superhuman when you're in there. It's because how disciplined you've lived the last 8 weeks, whatever it is. But now I'm to the point where they're 5 weeks out from a fight. I'm like, if I got the call, I'm like, I'm not ready to do 5 fucking 5s. I haven't been doing every possible thing that I could be doing. So I'm pulling out from backup fighter. Breaking news.
Thanks for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe and click the notification bell to stay up to date with MMA news every day. Here are the top comments from yesterday's video. The real question is, if Izzy does somehow get the W, will they run it back yet again? I mean, Alex has given him 3 back-to-back rematches. Why can't Alex get his? Should be no exemptions from testing. If they give one fighter an exemption because of popularity, then why bother having testing at all? Conor deleting tweets like he deletes lines of Colombian. Name a top 5 ranked opponent who wasn't washed up that Colby has ever beaten. And those were the top comments from yesterday's video. If you want to be featured on our next video, make sure to leave a comment and don't forget to check out yesterday's video in case you missed it.